In this tutorial, what we're going to do is take a look at how to actually assemble the digital die once we've got all the various different parts done. So hopefully by now you've managed to test and establish that this is okay. Maybe you've got your finished program on there, maybe you haven't. It doesn't really matter because you can always add it on a bit later. But you need to make sure that you know that all the outputs and the inputs are currently working. What you'll also need is you'll need a back of the die case as well. This is the bit that's going to sit on the floor once it's done. You'll need the lid, the part that's going to sit on top here as well once that's finished. So I've got mine there. You're also going to need some of these things. Now these are called M3 by 35 bolts. Let's just talk for a second about what that actually means. M3, whenever you look at any of these little bolts, okay, they're usually M, which is short for machine screw, which is the type of thing that we're holding in our hand here. 3 tells you the diameter of the actual bolt itself. So if I get this rather snazzy set of calipers and I pop those in there, you'll see, okay, they're not the world's most accurate calipers, but honestly, that's 3mm. And the 35 tells you how long the threaded part of the bolt, this piece from here to here, is. So if I measure the distance from just underneath the head of the bolt to the end, that's 35mm on there. You'll need 4 of those, and they're going to go basically in the corners. You also need some of these little white tubes. These things are called spacers, okay, and what they do is they allow you to provide a bit of space between 2 different components, so you'll need 4 spacers. You're also going to have some of these little metal discs here. Look, these little things, these are called washers. Okay, I'll try and balance one on my finger, and we put those in place so that the bolts, when we tighten them up, don't come loose. It makes them easier to stay tight once they're done up. You'll also need to have about 8 of these little M3 nuts. Okay, again, these are designed to take an M3 bolt, which is 3mm in diameter. So far, so good. What else have I got here? I've got a battery, so I can test at the end, and some long nose pliers because I'll probably want to be able to tighten things up once I know everything works. The other thing you'll need is you'll need 7 LED clips. And these basically make it so that when you push an LED through a hole, like I've got here, it doesn't end up just rattling around in there, and it's held nice and firmly in place. That's what the LED clips are for. There's 2 different sorts of LED clip that we stock in school. We've got the slightly older ones that we've got, which come in 2 parts. There's sort of a retainer, the actual clip part here, which looks a bit like this. Okay, and it then also comes with a retainer, as it's called, which is this circular piece here. If you use this style, then when we come to do the LEDs, you have to mount them one way, and I'll just show you this as well. This is the slightly newer style. You can spot these ones because when you hold them in your hand, you can see they're not a complete circle on the bottom. They've got 2 little bits that sort of stick out either side. If you're using these, you don't need a retainer clip. You don't need this circular piece of plastic, and realistically, I'd imagine you'll end up using these. So let's start putting stuff together. The first thing I'm going to do then is to build up the base of my project. Okay, so I'm going to take my base. I actually put my name on mine, and I did that with the laser cutter, so I want to make sure that's facing down. And I'm going to pass an M3 bolt through there like that. And what I'm going to do is I want that to stay nice and firmly in place. I don't want it to rattle around, so I'm going to take one of my M3 nuts, and I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to do that up nice and tight. So you can do that with your fingers. Here it goes, like so. And once that's in place, I'm just going to get on there, give that, once it's tight, sort of finger tight, I'm just going to give it another sort of half turn or something, just to tighten it up a little bit more. Now, it'll actually probably try and spin around in your fingers as you tighten this. Now, in fact, that's what's happening. Look, as I hold that, that's sort of turning with it, so it's not actually tightening up too much. But what you can do to help with that is you can get a screwdriver and put that in that end, and then get the other end and hold that with the pliers, and then do it up with the screwdriver, if you can imagine, and you can do that up. Now when you do this up, do remember you're screwing into acrylic. It's a type of plastic, and while it's quite hard, it's also quite brittle as well. If you do it up so that it's insanely tight, all that's going to happen is you'll crack the plastic, break it, and you'll have to get some more. Okay, we're not making a car or something here, so it doesn't need to be insanely tight. That extra half turn really is all you need. So we do that times 4, so let's get the rest of these all bolted in place. Get those put on. So it's kind of a nice, easy bit to start us off. When you put the nuts onto the bolts as well, what you want to do is make sure you put them on straight so that they're going on sort of flat on top. If you put them on a slight diagonal, they probably won't go on, but if you're able to put them on a slight diagonal, that's what's called cross-threaded. If they go on cross-threaded, then what you end up with is, you'll know you've done it because they'll be very, very tight to do up the whole way down the shaft. You certainly won't be able to do them up like this. and also as well you kind of rip the threads off the M3 bolt as you go down, so do try and make sure they go on nice and straight. Okay, fourth one going on. Okay, that's on there. There's a bit of a tighten. Okay, looking good. Okay, so those are all on there, so that's my sort of first stage, and I can now kind of build on that. Next thing to do then is to get your PCB. A lot of people say at this time, does it go this way up, or does it go this way up? In truth, it doesn't really actually matter too much. For me personally, I like my download socket to go opposite the end I've got my name on, so that's the way I'm going to put mine on, but it really won't affect things, whichever way you kind of choose to go with that. Okay, that's my PCB mounted on there. Okay, that's in place. What do I need to do next? Some people might be tempted at this point to put another bolt on just here to kind of hold that down. You could do, but I tend to find that once you've got all these wires positioned in the middle, that kind of naturally pushes the PCB down anyway, so that doesn't really tend to be too much of a problem. What we do need to do now though is to we can put the spacers on here as well. Actually we could do that now, but they'll probably get in the way. But actually no, I'll put those on. So spacers go on there. Okay, right, so that's the easy stuff done. Now it's time for the fiddly bit. Okay, basically what we've got to do is to get all 7 LEDs and the switch through all the holes in the case. Alright, I'll do the first one, and what I'll then do is probably make it go all super whizzy quick while I put the rest together, and then we'll kind of talk some more after that. Okay, so let's look at how we put one of these in. It's also important to know which LED is which. Okay, that's really important. Probably something I should have thought about a bit before I started recording this tutorial. Let's just pause for a second and think about that really quickly. I'm pretty sure I know which two are which, but I need some visual confirmation of that. You see, if you remember when we did the circuit design and we wrote the program, some of them, come on, up you come. It went on alright, didn't it? When you do try and lift this off, if you have to, because you're a wally like I am, and you didn't think about which LEDs are which, you've got to make sure you keep it flat and level. You see how that's gone wonky there, look, and that's why I'm struggling to lift that off at the moment. So I'm just going to push that back so it's kind of flat and try and lift it off while keeping it level the whole way off. Last thing I want to do is try and force it and snap a board or rip holes in it. That's got it. Okay, looking at the back of my PCB, I should be able to see which pairs are which. Let's have a look. Okay, these two LEDs here have got tracks connecting up between the two of them. So that's that's one pair on my lot that I've got. Okay, so that's one. So these two are going to be together. Okay, maybe they're the top left and the bottom right, or it doesn't really matter too much. I can always change it in software. Okay, the next two down, they're also a pair, and the next two down are also a pair, and then there's one that's all by itself down at the bottom. So that's my number 1 LED, the one that's right in the centre. Okay, and then this pair just here, just following my wires down, this pair here that I've got, that's another pair, so I might use those as either side of my number 6. This pair just here that I've got, they're going to be maybe the top left and the bottom right one, and then this pair here can be the top left and the bottom right. As long as I treat them as pairs, it's going to be fine. Okay, I'll do my individual one first because that's the most central LED of all. So keeping hold of that one, not letting it go, making sure I've got this one just here. What I'm going to do is to put one of my LED retainers, some LED clips in the top. So at the moment they're sort of rattling around, they're quite loose in there. Okay, that's fine. I also need to take, because I'm using the older style clip, one of these little ring retainer clips here. When you hold the retainer clip and you look at it, look on the inside, you'll see it's got some little fine, you can't really see it in the video I don't think, but it's got some really fine screw threads in there. When you hold it one way up, the screw threads come right the way up the plastic and stop at the top. When you hold it the other way up, the threads come up and they stop about 1 millimetre or 2 before the top. What you want is you want it with the threads all the way up to the top, you want it that way on. I'm just going to pop that over the top of my LED, like so. And actually, because I like to forget, I'll do it to all my others while I'm here as well actually, because they need to go on each one, because of the type of clip I'm using. I don't know why when I recorded this I chose to do it this way. What I should have done was use the more modern, easier clip, but I'm going to tell you, I'm making life hard for myself. Okay, and getting that. And one more. And last one. Okay, there we go, looking good. Okay, back to here. So I've got my LED clip in. What I can now do is to push the LED gently through the hole. You'll feel it go pop. You'll see how much that's sticking out. You see that's sticking out quite a good way off the back there. What I then do is I bring the retainer clip up behind the LED. And with my thumb on top of the LED, I sort of give it a little push. Nothing crazy. Little push. And basically that secures it, and that clicks into place on the back of the case like that. And the top and the bottom are now secure, and that's not going to come out. Okay, so that's retained that really nicely. That's my first of my LEDs. And then let's do exactly the same thing again for all the others. So let's do these two next. Remember we said that this two here were kind of paired up together. So I'll use that as, I don't know, this one here. Okay. I can imagine that once I've finished I'm going to need to reprogram my LED die a little bit, because I'm just guessing which outputs are which. But again, you can do that in software. That's the great thing about PIC chips. So that's just being pushed on. Now, one of the frustrating things that does happen with this, hasn't happened to me yet while I'm making this tutorial, but I'll bet it will at some point, is the LEDs from time to time will jump out on you. Another thing that happens also from time to time is that you'll have situations where the switch might jump out, or, you know, and stuff. That does happen, okay, it happens to me, it's going to happen to you as well as you're working. It's a bit frustrating, but as long as you persevere, as long as you keep on at it and you plug away, it'll all come right in the end, okay. Sometimes you might find that one of the clips is a bit tight. If they are a bit tight, don't be scared to get some pliers, and not using them to grip with, but using the sort of outside edge of the plier to provide some extra force to push down with, just to help to secure it in place. Okay, that's my next two on. Let's grab my next pair, and they're going to go sort of in here. Okay, so I might use this one as my top left. Which means, oh, hello, just dropped one off. That's it. Oh, this one's been a bit tricky. Okay, that's that one. Make sure its partner goes in the opposite corner. Starting to get a bit busy in here now as more and more wires are being sent up. That makes it easier to accidentally pop other LEDs off. Okay, that's it. Ooh. Okay, yeah, what you want to avoid is what I just did, which is where you sweep a load of it onto the floor. Give me 1 second. Video tutorials. Good recovery. Where was I? Oh yeah, okay, 2 left to do. That's all going on nice. Okay. Okay, right, so that's my LEDs all connected up. Okay, what I can do now is do my switch. When you get your switch, the switch actually comes with a nice little nut that's on the top of it. It might be that when you come to yours, because it's just been manufactured, that's really, really tight. You might need to get some, oh, hello, try not to do that again. You might need to get some pliers just to loosen that off so you can take it off. So undo the nut. What you often find underneath the nut as well is it's got like a little metal round ring. That's another type of washer. Okay, you don't need that for this project, so you can take that and you can discard that. Don't literally throw it away, put it in the bin properly. So there's my switch. With the switch, what I'm going to do is that has to, see if I can bring that around a bit to make it a bit neater. That needs to come up and stick out the hole, like I've just done there. Okay. And then I'm going to put the nut back on. When you put the nut back on, take a look at the nut before you attach it, because one end of the nut is slightly rounded on top and the other end is completely flat. You want the nice gently rounded end facing outwards, just because it looks a little bit prettier and more professional when you do it. So I'm going to stick mine through that hole, place it over the top. Now this one is tricky to do up. We talked about cross-threading them before. This is my favourite part of the whole assembly in terms of either dropping it on the floor, putting it all cross-threaded, having parts roll off the table, because at this point we've got a lot of wire in here now, so it might take me a second to get this, so I'm happy with it as well. No, it seems to be going pretty good actually. I'm also holding the bottom of the switch as well to stop it from spinning in my fingers. Okay, let's do that up. Just doing it up sort of finger tight. Okay, so that's on there. So that's actually looking rather nice, isn't it? Okay, right, let's get this back conked on top of here. So PCB goes on again. Okay, that's on there nice and flat. Spacer bars go on. Fourth spacer bar, there it is. Like so. And then what's left to do, you've got to be careful here as well. Another thing that can happen is these soldered wires on here, down at the bottom where they go into the PCB, they can snap off because the wire's being wriggled backwards and forwards a lot. The metal gets what's called metal fatigue and they snap out. That happens all the time, okay? Chances are very, very good that that'll happen to you. If it does happen, it is frustrating, but what you need to do is disassemble it, desolder, strip the wire some more, solder it back in and so on, and then carry on, okay? So as long as you're trying to avoid, aggravating the wires too much, you should be okay. But that's not to say that when I plug this one in a second, I'm not going to have that exact same problem. Fingers crossed. Okay, here we go. So I'm bringing this down now, sort of pushing down quite gently, trying to manipulate all my various bits of wire to stay in the middle of the shape, okay, because you want it all tucked away quite neatly. Bringing that down, placing it on top, like so, and compacting it, okay, like that. So then I've got it all pushed together. Now what I need to do is to take one of my washers, one of my M3 washers, and pop that up on a corner while I'm maintaining that downward pressure on here. Take an M3 bolt and do that up, and try not to cross thread it. Come on. Plenty of coffee today. Look how nice and shaky my hands are. Here it goes. Okay, that's that corner in. Another washer. Don't let go until you've got two on. Another M3 bolt. That one went on pretty good. Oh, there we go. Pressure's off now. Right, another one. Another M3 bolt. Nut. I keep getting nut and bolt mixed up. Sorry. These are nuts. Nuts are the things you do up. Bolts are what you're attaching them to. Okay, another one. And do that up. Okay, and then you can get in there again with the pliers and give them a bit of a tighten up. I'm not going to tighten up just yet because I haven't actually plugged it back in and confirmed it all works. Once you've got these on, it's all kind of held in place. Okay, you can see that wants a bit more compression on it. What you then want to do is just get your wires and try and make sure that all your wires tucked out of the way. It's looking pretty good. Bit in there I could probably jiggle away as well. With my switch, I can see that my metal of my switch is kind of hanging out. I might try and get in there with a plier and see if I can rotate that round a bit, so it's not protruding. Right, here we go, moment of truth then. Okay, now I expect that the LEDs will physically be in the wrong place. I can change that in code. But when I turn this on, what I should be able to see is all the LEDs working, the switch working, and have a working product. Here we go, so that's showing me a 6 at the moment, that's good. Okay, yeah, I've definitely got the wrong LEDs, but what I can say with some confidence though, is that physically my hardware is all working, because I've seen all these LEDs light up, all these LEDs light up, I've seen the one in the middle light up by itself. I know that's in the right place. So that's actually a really, really good sign, and my switch is obviously working as well. So what I'll now need to do, just to completely finish up, is to go back to where I did my Genie program, because I don't want to take that to bits all over again. Go back to where I did my Genie program and just reprogram it so that, I don't know, for example, at the moment, these two LEDs are on. I'm trying to roll a 5 here, I've got 5 blobs that have lit up, but these two here shouldn't be lit, it should be these two instead, so I'd need to modify my program code a little bit. But once you've done that, and once you've got the code modified so the right LEDs light up at the right time and you've got something you're happy with, and you've given these a bit of a tighten up, then I've got to say a very, very big congratulations, because you've finished the digital die, so really well done. Okay, so we'll see you in the next project.